This afternoon, during the last portion of the IFR, I'm going to give you what's happening, and it's the latest information, and may not be that pleasant, but you ought to know what's happening. Do you really need GPS? Well, I pretty much feel you do, and I can tell you the story in a Gulfstream II of two pilots, military pilots, flying along, and they lost all their electronic equipment. And they went, one of them went in the back and talked to the colonel and said, hey, we've got problems. And he whipped out a cell phone and a handheld GPS. And with that, they were able to make it in and land. And it was a pleasant experience, except for when the colonel received his cell phone bill. It was $382 for 3 minutes. Because every single repeater that picks it up, you up with a cell phone, gets to charge you. And I think it was probably the best $382 he ever spent, wouldn't you say?
Money well spent.
Money well spent. So I can tell you lots of stories like this. I don't know if you know that, I hate to tell two Gulfstream II stories in a row, but John Travolta was coming into National and also had the same situation and was able to do an approach with a handheld GPS that had a comm on it. So it's definitely a tool that works for us. Another story is a guy had a Cessna 310 and redid the panel. And the next time he flew IMC, the radios quit. Both the comm and the nav radios quit. And he was able to, with a handheld GPS, to make it in. There's lots of stories like this. And we can also talk about stories of people who might still be alive if they had had a handheld GPS. So I'm pretty much thinking that a handheld GPS is minimum equipment nowadays, at least in my flight bag. When we say how close you can come, how far away do you think you need to stay? What do you think? 10 miles, 5 miles, 1 mile? I hear a 1 mile a lot. Some people say 5, some people say 10. Randy Carnegie, who is the person at AOPA who hears about all the bus, he told me yesterday, tell them 20 miles. Because who loses? It's always the pilot. Now, we could argue about, well, are the radar plots as accurate as the GPS position plots?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They own the candy store.
They own the candy store, and it's what they say goes. This should amaze you. It amazed me when I heard about it, okay? They own the candy store, that's right. So let me talk just a little about TFRs, temporary flight restrictions. All right? They can be considered no-fly zones for most aircraft. We've had lots of them go into effect since 9/11. And you'll find out about them 2 ways. One by NOTAM, number 2 by interception during flight. They are not marked on charts. And this is what AOPA's thought was about not marking them on charts. If you mark them on a chart, they're going to be a permanent installation. Yeah. So we're saying don't mark them on the charts. But the big problem we've had is trying to find out where TFRs are. A pilot will get a good weather briefing, and then when they take off, a TFR will go into effect. They won't even know where it is. Even with the good weather briefing, you can't figure out where it is. A good NOTAM briefing. So this is what we're saying. If you're flying cross-country on an IFR flight plan, relax. You don't need to worry about TFRs. If you're on a VFR flight plan, that's the least that you ought to have. And on no flight plan or flight following, here's what I'd recommend. If you're not going to be on a flight plan or at least flight following, I'd say don't leave home without a sign. And on the sign, it should be about this big, and you're going to write on that sign, just write this before you leave home, hey, what's up, and have it sitting behind your seat. And the other thing you shouldn't leave home without is a camera. And here's why. Okay? I'm really serious. Now, I'm going to pick, I got about 2 more minutes left in this part of the unit, and I'm going to pick up right here when I come back, but I want to tell you a story to leave you with. Okay? I was lecturing at the Malibu Society's convention in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was 3 weeks after 9/11. They weren't sure if they were going to have the convention, and then they decided to have it because, you know, folks, we all need to get together when a crisis occurs. I mean, this crisis not only occurred to our country and to the Twin Towers, but it occurred to aviation. It damaged aviation. So we had the convention. And I was talking a lot about GPS and telling everybody, be very careful. So a guy I know, he took off in his jet prop out of Asheville, North Carolina. 45 minutes later, his Garmin 530s, 2 of them, quit. Now the Garmin 530 has in it embedded it has a NavCom, it's 2, and so when he lost the 530s, he lost his radios also. And I had told him, whatever you do, make sure you've got a cell phone, because they're uptight and you need help. So here it is getting dark, it's pitch black dark, and he notices that he doesn't have his cell phone. So he goes to the back of the Malibu. I don't know if you know what it looks like, but he crawled between the seats and gets back in the back to look for his cell phone, and right then, the F-16 showed up.
Oh my.
Now just imagine you're an F-16 pilot and you look into the cockpit and there's nobody there.
Oh my.
Okay, well eventually he crawls back up in the front seat, and he didn't have his sign and he didn't have his camera,
Oh my.
but he's got his cell phone. Now he didn't know that you're supposed to show them that you don't have a radio, and I wasn't in the military so I don't know this, but you know the signals to do this? Just go like this, and that tells them you don't have a radio. Because here's what's happening with the F-16. With the fast planes, one's coming like this, while the other's coming like this. So when this one's at this position, this one's over here. So they're doing this. Okay, oh yeah, it was very exciting. So he takes the cell phone and dials the operator and says, oh, I'm flying, my radio's quit, and I got F-16s out here, and I'm not sure what to do. What do you think? And she says, beats me. Beats me. So he says, well, I need help. Well, who do you need? I need approach control. I need center. I need center. And she's like, center? Well, there's nothing in the phone book for center. Okay, so they put him to the 411, to information. Okay, now he's going to try to get to somebody. Now just think about this. How are you going to get to somebody? So he goes, okay, United States government, Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration. Can you imagine how he had to try all these different combinations, and then he got the flight service station. Finally, they put him through to center. And center had a discussion with him about what his intentions were, and he said, well, I'm going to Teterboro, New Jersey. Well, in fact, folks, he did go to Teterboro, New Jersey. And they flew with him the whole way. And when he made a low approach onto final, they were right there with him.
Oh my God.
And this is a true story.